Hello. Well. Look at all these beautiful people. How's it going, guys? This is Fabrilen. Welcome back to a new video, and this is the one you've been all waiting for. It's the Game of the Year video, the GOTY list. First and foremost, a bit of business. Happy New Year, everyone. Since we're in 2023, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas break, enjoy the holidays, the festivities, the time to be jolly, and all of that. Um, Back for a new video set. Um, this is going to be a fun one, especially because thinking about it makes me smile because a couple of friends on YouTube already watched their fantastic Game of the Year videos. We all had kind of the same idea because I thought about this back in October or something like that. When I was starting to think about ranking the games that I played in 2022. The idea of adding a couple more awards to the standard Game of the Year one. And I say, I found that funny. We didn't plan it, we didn't talk about it, and all of that. And yet, we're all, as I said, adding a bit more content. I would say, to me at least, in my case, to make this video a bit more interesting, because of course, as you know me, I'm not going to be over the top and all that with editing and all of that. Just the basics to make the video watchable, at least. But beside my traditional, usual list of the games I've played and rank them according to my personal preferences, we're going to add 5 more awards. More specifically, we're going to mentioning the longest and shortest games I play, just for as shits and gigs. I think it's a fun piece of trivia. The biggest surprise of the year, which game surprised me the most? Unfortunately, we're going to go also for a more negative one with the biggest disappointment of the year, which is something interesting to discuss. A very difficult one for me was the best individual music score of the year. Because originally I wanted to do like soundtrack, but I decided to go for individual pieces of music. That was really tough. Then we have the hardest, most challenging game I've experienced this year. And finally, as a special, very special homage and tribute to my friend DMP, good old Devil May Pie, we're gonna go for the best waifu of 2022 based on the games I've played. So with all of this out of the way, I think the best way to start is the game of the year. Let's go with the most important category, like the Oscars. Like we all start from Best Picture. It's the most important award. We're gonna do the same here. As said, I played 13 games this year. So far, I finished 12 of them because I'm currently playing the final one. Since it's a very long one, I haven't finished it yet, even though I spent almost 90 hours with it. But yeah, I think I already have enough knowledge and experience, let's call it, with that, so that I can have a sort of opinion. And I don't think even would have finished it, it would have changed the final ranking because I'm pretty happy with my list. And yeah, let's move from there. Just grab all the games. Let's do this. Okay, so as I said, 13 games. We're going to start from the bottom, working and climbing all the way to my favorite game of the year. As you know, also a little note. I haven't played exclusively 2022 games, of course. As you know, like I play a bit of everything throughout the year, from retro to more modern games, and even like new releases. There's a bit of everything here. And with all of that, I think we can start with number 13. Actually, no, we're not going to start yet because another note, postscriptum. which is important, especially for the surprise disappointment categories that we're gonna talk about later. It's the fact that I've enjoyed all the games that I played this year. Even if we have a sort of disappointment, it's still a game that I liked and have fun playing it. It's just that maybe I was expecting something more. But I'm very, very happy with the games I played. I haven't played a single bad one. I only had good experiences with these 13 games. And for that, I am very happy. Absolutely happy with that. So now we can actually start and let's move to the ranking for the 2022 game of the year. I'm going to start at number 13 with a PS4 game, which is Dragon Age Inquisition. Again, it's at the bottom of my list, but I greatly enjoyed it, especially when I played it. Now, the more like months passed, the more I forgot about it. Now I don't even remember the story basically because it wasn't that compelling. It didn't capture me as much as I was hoping. As I said, like I know I remember that I liked it, but the gameplay wasn't exactly amazing. After a while, I got used to it. Especially, it's really tough at the beginning, and then it progressively got easier for me. By the end, I was like just steamroll through it. But I remember the learning curve and the difficulty spike. It's pretty high at the beginning, I have to say. Once you manage to know how you can make experience easier, like faster, you get better gear, you get more party members, all that. The game gets easier. But at first, it was really tough. And overall, though, I remember like I like the idea. I like the idea of the Inquisitor. I like the world. I like the lore. It's just as I said, like the gameplay could have been better, especially considering the year before I played, say, Witcher 3, for example, and that combat system would have been amazing in a game like this. Because at the end of the day, especially with regards to the gameplay department, Dragon Age has changed so much. Because I played a good chunk of the first one, and personally think it's quite overrated. A lot of people think and talk about Dragon Age as one of the best RPG series. I don't think so. I think most of it because it's a sort of spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate, the first game. This is almost an action RPG, basically. It has so little of that combat system. But as I say, like it's so much better than the first one, in my opinion. As I say, I like almost everything about it. It's just like gameplay and the story weren't exactly that amazing to me. That's why it's at the bottom of my list. It's a good, solid game. And the fun thing with Inquisition is that I didn't even plan on playing this game. Um, but at one point, my good friend Leo the Funny Nerd suggested a sort of poll, something like a good idea on our Discord page to our little corner of the community, so that we should play the same game at the same time, kinda, and then we can have a big podcast episode where we talk about this game. As I said, great idea. I was absolutely on board with it. And then the idea was that each and everyone who was interested suggest and propose a game that we should play. The fun thing, just out of nowhere, randomly, like looking at my collection and something easier to attain, I said, oh, why not Dragon Age Inquisition? And for whatever reason, that game won the poll, and so we had to play that game. And at the end of the day, I was the only one who played it and kind of enjoyed it. And I did enjoy it. It's just that Leo, I think he tried 3 or 4 times. He could not get into it at all. I think Bobby, Manboy Cave, kind of gave it a shot, but after a while again, he gave up. Who else? Like, I think Fox gave up on it. So it was a complete failure of a really good idea. But it's funny that I was the only one who played and enjoyed it at the end of the day. I spent 75 hours with it. Up until now, basically, it's the longest game I played this year. But I always think with a big smile of the idea, like, oh, we should all play together, do a podcast, and then I was the only one who played it, basically. It's just so much fun. So number 13, Dragon Age Inquisition. Number 12, we have Astria Ascending on the Nintendo Switch, as you can see. A game I was really looking forward to because primarily of the graphics and the art style presentation of it. It's like, oh, that looks so cool. It kind of reminds me of a Vanillaware game, but in a sort of JRPG Koto Paint, so with the turn-based combat system, something that we never really have from the Vanillaware here in the West, because of course, let's see if I have it here, which I don't think. No, I don't. There is what's it called? Grand Knights. I cannot remember the title now. It's something Knights Chronicles or whatever, which was released in Japan on the PSP, and at one point it seemed that we could have that here in the West, but then it all fell apart. I think with Xseed or something, like the publisher, the translation, and all of that didn't work, so we never had that game, which is a shame because it looks so cool, and just the idea of a Vanillaware proper like JRPG would be amazing. It's something I always wanted. So Astria Ascending, it's kind of the closest thing we have to that. And this game, it's might be the most polarizing that I played this year, because on one hand, it features like a sort of like artistic style graphics that I absolutely love for my JRPGs, which is the more anime but gorgeous looking, as I said, a la Vanillaware. And it has a fantastic combat system. So it's turn-based, but it's all based on weaknesses and strategy. So it's very reminiscent of, say, Octopath Traveler, SMT, those kind of things. So you have to find out the enemy weakness and exploit that so you can charge up and do more powerful attack, but also be careful because the enemy can do the same. I absolutely loved it. I had so much fun with this. The problem is that the story was very, very bland and generic. It has potential, but it could have been so much more. I think this is a sort of missed hidden gem of sort. I mean, we all know about these games, so the term hidden gem doesn't apply anymore, in my opinion. But it could have been a gem of a game. I hope it's sold enough so that the developers, I don't remember who they are, maybe Artisan Studios, perhaps, or whoever it is, can do a sequel and address some of the issues, because there is a good game here that could have been better and a sort of, again, sort of gem on the Switch. But for other departments, I say, it's a really solid JRPG. It's not, as I say, especially like the story department, so characters, world building, all of that was kind of lacking. Gameplay department, in my opinion, really good. So number 12, Astria Ascending. Number 11, unfortunately, it's a bit low considering this was so much fun. And it's a kind of important in a way. We have on the PS3, Warhammer 40k Space Marine. This started because of the trailer last year, I think, for Space Marine 2, which is going to be released on PC, PS5, all of that nonsense pretty soon. And the cool thing about that trailer, it kind of reignited my passion for Warhammer 40k. It's something that I always liked, but for a long period of time, I kind of forgot about it because I never played a tabletop. I could never play that. I mean, for various reasons, lack of time. It's very expensive. It's cumbersome because you have to go to Games Workshops or Warhammer stores to find people to play with. You have to go to tournaments. You have to paint and assemble the armies. I mean, Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy, all of that. Age of Sigmar, actually. While a really cool hobby in theory, in practice, it's really complicated. Like, if I had to play 40k, I would have to stop doing something such, playing video game, and that's too high of a price for me. But, there is a but, I love the lore of 40k. Luckily, it has a gigantic, fat lore that you can check it out through video games, books, and all of that. There's so much from 40k, and at the moment, I think it's my favorite sci-fi, science fantasy some of my favorite science fantasy sci-fi um, franchise. Considering how shit Star Wars is right now, I have basically lost interest in that. So luckily we have 40k. We'll see what they'll do with the cinematic announcement by Henry Cavill lately. But back to Space Marine. This is so much fun. It's a third-person hack and slash action game that takes place in the 40k universe. You play as Captain Titus of the Ultramarines, the 13th Legion of Space Marines. You primarily fight against orcs, and then there is a sort of twist that involves Chaos Space Marine. A lot of stuff. What would you expect from a 40k game? But this is a lot of fun, I remember. I had a big smile on my face the entire time, mowing down hordes of orcs or CSMs with my Blueberry Boy Scout here. Um, I would love to play Space Marine 2, but unfortunately it's only on next-gen consoles since I don't have a PS5 and I'm not planning to buy one. Alas, I'll just have to watch it on YouTube or something. It didn't look so cool, the idea like the Space Marine fighting Tyranids and all of that. Damn it. But at number 11, super, super fun game from the PS3 days. It took me a long time to get it and play it, but finally I did it, and I wasn't disappointed. This is so much fun. Number 10, we have sort of the retro game of the year. In a way that you can consider PS3 retro, that's fine. But we're going back to the PS2 days here with Shadow Hearts from the New World. I kind of dragged my feet with this, as I didn't want to play it in a way because I thought that once I'm done with this, I'm done with Shadow Hearts because, of course, they're never going to either remake or make new games because this series is long dead and it will never be touched again. Of course, now with the recent announcement of that Kickstarter for Arm Fantasia and Penny Black, Penny Dread, I don't remember how it's called, but we have a potential Shadow Hearts spiritual successor in a way coming in the future. We'll see. Apparently, that game will take back the Judgment Ring, called not the same name, but a sort of Judgment Ring combat system, a dark gothic, and all of what made Shadow Hearts amazing. So now I feel a little bit better, even though I finished all three games, and this was a big question mark for me because in a way, some people say this is the worst of the series. It's kind of the one that killed the series. Now that I experience it, I have to disagree with some of those statements. In a way, it is the weakest of the series, but it's still a very good game. I was surprised by it. Gameplay-wise, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I didn't expect anything less from a Shadow Hearts game. I would say it's actually better than the first one, gameplay-wise. The story, it's interesting, and I enjoyed it. The characters, there are some good ones, and there are some of the worst in the series, in my opinion. Especially in a way, the way they were portrayed and designed. Like, especially my biggest complaint is Frank. Is this hilarious, in a way, character, but he's dressed like an idiot and cosplay ninja, basically. While he technically is a government agent, just dress him as a government agent and be goofy and idiot as it is. Because in a way, he's hilarious. And then you have a huge cat, is like, why? But you have some great main characters like Johnny Garland, Shania, Hildegard. It's great. So I would say, and also I would disagree with the fact that this killed the franchise because in a way the franchise never really took off. It was a very niche RPG franchise already from the beginning, basically. So it never really had a chance. Unfortunately, Shadow Hearts never achieved the success that, in my opinion, it deserved. But I'm very happy that I played it. I had a lot of fun. As I say, gameplay-wise, I just love these games. I love the Judgment Ring system. There is a plenty of customization, plenty of strategy that you can play with combos and the way you use magic, the way the party members involved, the way you have to, I don't know, like attack an enemy, then to shoot into the sky so you can do a specific type of magic combo. There's a lot of strategy involved in this game, and that's why I love it so much. So as I was doing this long video, of course, like there's going to be multiple interruptions here, obviously. But nevertheless, I think I said everything I want to say about Shadow Hearts. I have a lot of fun playing it. It's a series dear and near to my heart. And though it's maybe not as good, certainly not as good as Covenant, but as I said, like, it can hold its own against the first one, in my opinion. Maybe the first one is a bit more iconic, being the first one, and it has a slightly better story. And another thing that I want to mention with From the New World is actually there's a lot of comedy in here, which I actually like, and potentially the idea for a sequel for this, but it was never going to happen. But considering I had technically the bad ending, which kind of fits the potential that I had in mind for a sequel with this cast of characters, but as I said, like, never gonna happen. But at least we have the spiritual successor, and hopefully, if that it's good, maybe we can have more Shadow Hearts esque games in the future, which is something that severely is missing in the current day and age of JRPGs, in my opinion, because the Shadow Hearts trilogy, let's call it that, even though From the New World, technically it's not Shadow Hearts 3, it's a sort of spin off. It's an absolute gem from the PS2 days. One of the best, or at least let's put it this way, one of my favorites, most unappreciated RPGs from that generation. Okay, moving on at number 9, we have actually a long series of Switch games, because I have to say Nintendo Switch for me kind of dominated the year. We're gonna start at number 9 with Metroid Dread, a fantastic Metroid game. Really enjoyed it. Loved the story for what can we get from a Metroid game, but I really enjoyed it. The gameplay was great. It reminded me a lot of my current favorite in the series, which is Fusion, especially in the parts which you are when you are chased by the enemy robots. So there is a lot of tension and sense of like hurry, since you have to escape. Otherwise, they're gonna kill you in one shot unless you're like super fast and 100% precise in deviating their attack, but it's very hard to do. But I really enjoyed it. Like, obviously, it's a Metroid game. I really like these. It's kind of like the back to basic kind of approach with the Metroidvania genre. Like, Metroid, it's not will not disappoint. It's a lot of fun. It's really well made, extremely well crafted. It was highly anticipated by the fan base, and I played it like 1 year after its release, simply because back then it didn't happen. But very, very pleased with Metroid Dread, a potential candidate for my favorite Metroid game of all time. So I was really pleased with this. At number 8, still, as we said, on the Nintendo Switch, we have a similar yet very different game from Dread, and that is Blasphemous, the deluxe edition. This was very interesting, as it's a Metroidvania game mixed with, in my opinion, 2D Souls gameplay, as this is extremely difficult, at least for me, because I'm kind of a noob with those type of games. Even though I like them, I'm not very good at them. So that's a big difference there. Blasphemous, I have no idea what happened throughout the game story-wise, but I didn't care, because I really enjoyed, in a way, the aesthetic of the game. Very gothic, like Catholic Church, decay, decadent, horror kind of thing, like very weird creatures and monsters and bosses. I loved it. Add the 2D Souls like combat and gameplay style, the fact that you can die in 2 seconds basically, and My goodness, the best part of this game, of course, the boss battles. They were so good, so much fun, so much challenging, especially some of them were absolutely like a nightmare to get through them. To me, as I said again, because I'm not very good at this, but really enjoyed it. As I said, I have no idea what the story was about. I don't care because I enjoyed it so much. As I said, primarily from an aesthetic and gameplay reason. Some of the music was pretty good as well. I think we might get a sequel. I don't know when, I don't know how things are, but I'm pretty sure this was quite successful. Was released a bit like almost everywhere, if not everywhere. So it's not a difficult game to get, but it's a lot of fun. So number 8, Blasphemous. Number 7, in a way, I'm a bit surprised that this game is only here, kind of like halfway through the list, but at the end of the day, it's just a matter of preference. Just certain games wrap me the right way compared to this, even though I enjoyed it from top to bottom, from beginning to end. It's a great must on the Nintendo Switch, and that is Triangle Strategy. The name it's kind of ass is like Triangle Strategy because probably like they had this was the working title and Square then they didn't really know how to call this. Well, let's keep it because it's all about three decisions, the three main characters, and all of that. In any case, this is a great old school strategy RPG. I believe it's exclusive on Nintendo Switch for now, or maybe it's been released on PC. I don't know, but this is a must own and a must play for all of you Nintendo Switch owner. It's a great story of political intrigue, war, and with gorgeous 2.5D kind of sort of sprites for characters, very reminiscent of primarily Tactics Ogre, I would say. That's the main appeal originally of this game. It's a sort of spiritual successor to the Tactics Ogre games rather than Final Fantasy Tactics. And it features a very classic and enjoyable, not too hard um, grid-based strategy RPG combat. And as I like great story, unforgettable characters like from Serenoa to Frederica and all the others. A great soundtrack. I really enjoyed the soundtrack in this game. And throughout the story, occasionally you have to make decisions that will influence the outcome. So it's, as I said, like it's an absolute must. If you like strategy RPG, there's no question you have to get and play Triangle Strategy. My number 7. Number 6, still on the Nintendo Switch. This might be a surprise for some, like because if you know me, I love, 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 love this series. However, this, what I'm about to say, might be a bit controversial. So let's go with it. At number 6, so outside of the top 5, we have Trails from Zero, part 1 of the Crossbow duology in the Legend of Heroes series. This is a great, great game. Finally, we managed to have a proper, legitimate, let's call it, version of this game released to the West. The problem, it's not a problem, but to me, very personal opinion here, I think this game is a bit overhyped. At the moment, at the time of recording, this might be the weakest Kiseki game. Again, to me. It's good. It's very good. It's Legend of Heroes. So, kind of the idea is like mediocre Falcom games are better than most. And this is, of course, this is no mediocre. This is, as I said, this is a great JRPG. It's just that, as I say, it's a bit overhyped because as long as it stays in Japan, and kind of with Leon that, as long as it stays in Japan and it's not accessible for everyone, it's the best in the series. So it kind of works like that, in my opinion. So I'm very curious to see what Aono Kiseki or Trails from Azure has to offer, because a lot of the true hardcore Legend of Hero fanatics hails that as the best of the entire series. We'll see. Because with this, I spent, I think, I don't remember, like certainly more than, say, 50 hours, 60 hours, something like that. and the first 30 were kind of boring. Like nothing happened. From the Black Auction onwards, the game gets great. The ending is fantastic. Really liked it. But the first 30 hours, as I said, I was almost bored. It's like, can something happen besides side quests and fetch quests? Because as I said, like I play plenty of Legend of Heroes games. They're all the same in that formula, but this was more boring than others. Even though, yeah, they had to introduce the new characters, the new setting, and all of that. Yeah, they already went through that with the first Trace in the Sky and the first Cold Steel game, but it wasn't as boring as this one. I don't know. But really like, of course, the cast of characters. I already knew them from the Cold Steel games and lore that I read about this series, like Lloyd, Ellie, Randy, Tio, and all of the others. I love Crossbow as a setting. I like this idea of the big city with this really rot underbelly. It's really good stuff. I like it. As I said, once the Black Auction starts, so that's when the game gets really good. Not enough to be like the best in the series to me, but it's a really, really good game nonetheless. Well deserves of being a number 6 on my list, and I cannot wait to play Treasure from Asia this year. All right, top 5. One more Switch game. As I said, the Switch kind of ruled the year for me. And we're gonna go with a game that I did not see coming, like because I don't follow video game news constantly, so I just read something here and there, primarily JRPG news. And all of a sudden, very close to release, I read that this game was about to be released. It's something that I remember, like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know they were making a remake of this. And that it's Live Alive. I knew about this since I would say the PS1 days, because like this obscure Square Enix Super Nintendo RPG that never released outside of Japan. I was like, I wonder what it is. It sounds interesting for what I read, but I never dreamt that Square Enix would re-release it, because it was kind of niche obscure already back then. Finally played it, and I have to say, this was a big surprise. I absolutely loved it. It's so good. It's really, really unique, especially back in the day. But even now, it's because like the idea there is all these 8 different stories which are sort of interconnected, but all of them play rather differently. Like you have, say, of course, the one we all know about it, and I think most people's favorite scenario is, of course, the cavemen, the prehistory one, with all the characters they don't speak, because I guess speaking was not invented yet, and they just grunt basically, and there are like little comic bubbles or something. That is brilliant. I want an entire game like that, because even though they weren't speaking, the characters were super expressive. It was really well made. I love like Imperial China, with especially the boss rush at the end. Like you can choose your disciple and all of that. The one with the ninja, it's more about the stealth game in a way. The one with the present, it's more of a fighting game. There's the distant future, it's almost a survival horror. So you see what, and the medieval one, it's a sort of Dragon Quest-esque kind of traditional RPG. So as I said, like there's a lot of variety of these really short stories that at the end comes together for like the reveal why these stories are interconnected. So it's a really neat game, really unique, not for everyone, I think. Also because the combat system it's a bit different from your traditional RPGs. I think it plays a bit more like a strategy RPG in that it's a grid base. Each attack has its own shape, so you have to take that into account. As I said, a bit different, very unique, very quirky in a way, but I really enjoyed it. So Live Alive, absolutely loved it, and well deserved of being in my top 5. Really didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Because at first I played primarily for curiosity, because I said like, oh, it's this obscure JRPG I always heard about but never seen, no one really talks about it. But finally we have it, and it didn't disappoint. I really enjoyed Live Alive. Finally, we can move for a minute from the Switch. And we're going at number 4, we're going to the PS3 with a game that I wanted to play for a long time but never had the chance. And finally happened, and I was really pleasantly surprised by this, to the point that this is a strong contender for my favorite game within this specific series. That is Tales of Xillia. Such a good Tales game. Really great story, unforgettable characters, which is something that Tales does so well. Characters and character development. And also a fun combat system. Of course, by now this is a bit dated because it's a PS3 game. So it would be great to have an HD remake of Xillia, please, and Xillia 2. I would love that. But I don't think there are any plans for that, but we'll see. But really enjoyed it. As I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. So that by the end, when everything was settled and everything was done, it was like, wow, what a great adventure. I really had a blast playing through this. And for the longest time, incredibly, this was my game of the year because I haven't played like other games that gave me all the emotional roller coaster and the like an epic story, kind of like this. I really enjoyed Tales of Xillia. I cannot wait to play Xillia 2, which that legend known as Leo the Funny Nerd gave it to me for Christmas. Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate it. But number 4, Tales of Xillia. Fantastic game on the PS3. Top 3. We're almost there. This was pretty easy in a way because I think these 3 games stand like a bit above the rest. Because as I said, I enjoyed everything I talk about it all this up until now, but these 3 games are really special. I'm going to start with number 3, one of the most recent games I played, Bayonetta 3. Oh my god, these games are so good. I only played the number 2, and now this one. I still need to play 1. Again, Leo, thank you so much for that Switch copy of the first one, but this was so much fun, just as I expected, because I remember Bayonetta 2 was kind of like my surprise of the year whenever I played it. It was like amazing, and 3 didn't disappoint. I loved it from beginning to end. It was a bit of a mess, I think, with the whole multiverse kind of thing, but also very funny to have these different versions of Bayonetta and other characters of the series. So much fun, my goodness. They also introduced new characters, primarily in the form of Viola, which it's interesting to speculate what they're going to do for an eventual 4th Bayonetta game, because I think this was pretty successful, despite the whole controversy, which I'm not even going to mention. But I really hope they're going to be a Bayonetta 4, and personally, I would love it to be focused on Viola. But that's a story for another time. But at number 3, without any doubt, Bayonetta 3, fantastic, must-play game on the Switch, because these Bayonetta games are just so much fun. This like crazy over-the-top action, hack-and-slash combat, the humor. It's like, they're so much fun. Probably the most fun I have the entire year. Bayonetta 3. Okay, now, this is crazy, but I decided to go with this order because now we have the game that I haven't finished yet, but I played a big chunk of it, so I can already talk about it. And but I'm pretty confident with this ranking. At number 2, it's kind of crazy to say it out loud, but at number 2 we have Persona 5 Royal. Number 2, number 1.5 or something. This is an incredible game, of course. It's fantastic. As I'm still playing it. I'm like almost at 90 hours. So I still have, I don't know, at least 30, 40 hours ahead of me. But my goodness, so good. I love this gorgeous steelbook edition that I have with all the cast of characters. from Joker. Here you got Morgana, Haru, and all the others. Okay, this game is amazing. I had no doubts that I absolutely love it. It perfected the Persona 4, the formula introduced by 3. Since last year, I play Persona 3 Portable. So to see where the series is now, at a classic Persona formula, it's, I don't want to say night and day because they're like, the basics are the same, but this, like, I think perfected it so much. Especially, I would say, the gameplay department. I mean, I love playing through this, especially the dungeons. I love the palaces because the way I do it usually is just on basically the first day. I go into the palace and stay there until I've done everything, SP permitted, of course. So, but I just love exploring those places or the mementos and like combat. It's fantastic. Meeting new personas, fighting and recruit them. It's persona perfection in a way. Like I love 3 and I love 4. I mean, it's saying which one it's my favorite. It's really tough actually. That's why I kind of cheat by saying that Q2 it's my favorite because it's taking everything from all 3 games. But oh my goodness, this is an incredible JRPG. It took me a long time to play it, but I'm so glad I finally did. And because I already play Five Strikers, so I was really missing this. But this is incredible. It could easily be number 1, but I decided to reward another game that completely blew me away. Like I didn't think it was possible to improve the formula, to improve an already perfect game, and yet they managed to do it. So I was absolutely speechless and stunned. The moment I stopped playing, I was like, I have experienced something special. So that's something that must be rewarded, right? Of course, Persona 5, it's fantastic. It's one of the best JRPGs I've played in a long time. But Ori and the Will of the Wisps, it's incredible. So I couldn't believe how much I love this. And the first Ori, it's already a pretty perfect game. So I didn't think it was possible to improve the formula. Of course, in my opinion, because one thing that was missing in the first Ori was combat. It was bare minimum. And yet it didn't really matter because the platforming and all other aspects were just so good and refined. And then Moon Studio added a fantastic combat system. So that to me kind of took an already perfect game, adds a little lovely cherry on top, and the result is, at the moment, my personal favorite Metroidvania game. And it's going to be really hard to beat this because this game is absolutely gorgeous to look at. It plays like a dream, as I said, platforming, combat, everything. It's so emotional, and these are not even human characters, they're like animals or something like that. But that moment when Ori and Ku met again, they hug, it's so heartwarming. The ending was tragic. And I mean, I didn't cry, but I was like, oh my god. It was like the feelings, the emotions. And the boss battles were just incredible, especially the final battle in here. It's was so much fun, so challenging and yet engaging to the point that you kept playing on repeat because the adrenaline was just growing and growing inside of me. And I couldn't put it down. Like, even though it was like 2 a.m. in the morning or something, I was there with my Switch playing desperately because I wanted to finish this fantastic game. So, and the music, of course. I mean, just like the first Ori, but what a great soundtrack. So, in a way, like a perfect game that managed to. Let's put it this way: a game that managed to improve on a perfect game, it needs to be rewarded. To me, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, it's one of my favorite games of all time already, since I made a top 10 games of all time, and this is on there. Spoiler, I guess. But I couldn't believe how much I loved it. I mean, I kinda, but not as much as I did. So I think it's well deserved of the number 1 spot because this is a truly, truly special game. So number one, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, my game of the year of 2022. But we're not done yet. Don't go anywhere. Don't change the channel. We're not finished because we have the extra awards. So part two of the video. If you're still here, thank you, because this is very long. As you know me, I like to blab a little bit and talk about the games when I do lists. So as I said, we have 5 extra awards that I decided to pick. So it's general random stuff. There's nothing too technical or, I don't know, like best graphics, best performance, like, because I don't really care about that stuff. But just some details and things that I notice or that I decided to mention just for shits and gigs, basically. So, for example, the award for the longest game that I played obviously goes to Persona 5 Royal, because, as I said, I spent already 90 hours with it. I'm nowhere near close to the end, because I heard this is a 100 plus hours game, so I still have a long road ahead of me. While the shortest game I've experienced this year, that's also something to be commended, because I don't mind playing short game, was Bayonetta 3. With its 9 hours that it took me to finish it, beat Warhammer 40k Space Marine, which took me 10 or 11 hours. So we have this out of the way. Next, we have an interesting category, and that it's the biggest surprise of the year. And again, I didn't have any doubts, because the game that surprised me the most is Live Alive. Primarily through its formula and the gameplay. Because as I said earlier, this is a game I knew about this game. But it's really something that you have to experience. And that's also why I said it's not for everyone. Because the gameplay is a bit quirky. And but it's such a unique experience. Not really for the stories, I would say, because all the chapters are pretty short and they're very basic in a way, but they can be a lot of fun. Like as I mentioned before, like the caveman story, it's hilarious, it's fun, and it's really absolutely unique and original, especially the whole thing they communicate with. But the thing that I loved the most about it, it's the difference between the chapters. They felt almost like mini games within a game. So as I said, you have a more RPG one, then you have a sort of fighting game, then you have another that plays like a survival horror, then you have another one that is more of a stealth game. Then you have the final chapter that feels more like Dragon Quest. So it really surprised me. And all things considered, this is a rather short game. I think it took me 23 to 25 hours to finish all the chapters. And by the end, I was really, really surprised. So I think it's by far the best candidate and winner for the biggest surprise award. Unfortunately, though, we also have the biggest disappointment, because things like this happens when you play games. There are some you really anticipated, you were really, I don't want to say hyped about, but kinda. Like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And then it's like, it's not bad, but it's not great either. And that for me, unfortunately, was Astria Ascending. I was expecting more out of this. Maybe I hinted it when I was talking about it during the first part of the video. But this is primarily a story problem. Not just that the story it's not particularly good, because it's not. It's, as I say, it's not terrible. It's just generic. It's a bit bland. The main problem with this game to me is the fact there is no war building. So why is that's kind of the biggest question I was constantly asking while playing this game. Even by the end, like, why is this world like organized this way? Why do they have to eat these harmony fruits? Why is that 13 zodiac spirit is such a problem? Why? That's all things that you have to take care of through world building, and that was a big, big issue for me. It's the main issue with this game, because if we do explain it, fine, but due to the severe lack of world building, also the story was not that interesting, the characters were not that engaging, because you have this bunch of characters called the demigods, I think, if I remember correctly. It's like, who are they? Why are, like, the thing also is like these demigods, they live only what, say, no, I don't remember the exact period, say a year, and then you have to select a new generation of demigods. It's like, why? All things that are not explained but are very important to understand what you're experiencing, and also that allows you to care about the characters and the story, the world, and all of that, especially because the gameplay was so good, or at least I really enjoyed it. I wanted to care more about these characters, but I really didn't. I mean, I care a bit about something, but at the end of the day, I was like, well, whatever, it's finished, good, let's move to something more interesting. And it's not a bad game. It's an okay game that could have been much better. That's why I say I hope they do something more with it. I think what this game needs, it's a prequel, actually, not really a sequel. So Astra Ascending Zero or something that explains the origin of the world, of the demigods, and all of that, because that's the biggest issue with this game. Say a pretty good game that could have been very good, I think, but was ruined by primarily the lack of world building. That shows how important it is. Next, we have the hardest, most challenging game award. What's the game that gave me more problems in a positive way? Well, obviously, Blasphemous. There's no question about it. This game drove me crazy in the best possible way, because I like challenging games. I like Souls game. This is a sort of 2D Souls game. And some of the boss battles drove me absolutely insane. Especially one, which I cannot remember the name now because I completely removed it from my memory. But I think I died something like 50 times with that specific boss. I was almost to the point of snapping the switch on my knee. I was that furious. While others were challenging, but I managed very well. I mean, overall, I loved the challenge that Blasphemous offered me, even though at times drove me crazy. But this is by far the hardest game I played this year. No comparison. Next, we have a very difficult category here, because we have the best soundtrack. More specifically, I decided to go for the best individual track. This was hard, just to select potential candidates. For now, to the best of my memory, I decided to go with 3 potential winners. First of all, we have Battle Theme number 7 from Triangle Strategy, or also known as the Frederica's Battle Theme. have inevitable struggle from Trust from Zero, which is kind of like the big boss battle, again, from Zero no Kiseki. And finally, the third candidate is, I believe the title is Beneath the Mask, which is one of the main themes from Persona 5 Royal, primarily the one that plays in the background during downtime when you're like, I don't know, going around Tokyo, doing, I don't know, social skills or anything else. Like that song. Loved it. So, the award for Best Individual Track has to go, maybe it's a bit of anticlimactic, but it has to be Beneath the Mask from Persona 5 Royal. This was really close. I love all three because these are kind of the scores that I listen to the most throughout the years. There are other really good ones from various games. Like Ori has a great soundtrack, Bayonetta has a great music, Tales of Xillia has great music, all of these games. But these three individual pieces are special. Some of those I hear them regularly, like, oh, I want to listen to this because it's so good. But I have to say, Beneath the Mask is special because you hear it so frequently while you're playing Persona 5 that it really sticks with you. And it's so relaxing, chilling, and even creepy at times, but it's just so good. It's such a pleasant melodies you have in the background to the point that at certain times, like the um, moments when I was playing Persona 5 towards the beginning, I have to stop what I'm doing to listen. It's like, this is a really cool song. And occasionally I listen it on YouTube, even though I'm still playing the game, so I have plenty of chances to hear that to the point I'm almost sick and tired of it. Just joking. But it kind of has to be my favorite individual track of the year because of how special it is, and also it's, as I said, it's just a really cool song. Like, I wouldn't mind listening to it on my on Spotify or whatever. It's really, really good. Finally, the fifth category, and as I said at the beginning of the video, this is a special tribute, a special homage to my good friend DMP. So, best waifu. We have to end with something special here. We have four candidates here. First and foremost, we have Makoto Nijima from Persona 5 Royal. Second, we have Viola from Bayonetta 3. Third, we have Mila Maxwell from Tales of Zillia. And finally, fourth one, we have Shania from Shadow Hearts from the New World. And the winner is, drumroll please,
Drum roll!
Viola from Bayonetta 3. I would say she is my favorite female character of the year, my favorite waifu, let's call it whatever you want, of the year. Because she is, for various reasons. First of all, she's hilarious. She's a lot of fun, and I like fun characters. Second, I love her design, especially her punk aesthetic. It's something you don't see too often in games nowadays. It's very reminiscent of the days gone by, like the 1980s, 1990s, or something. So, but yeah, really, and it really fits her, like those, as I said, that punk aesthetic. The problem with Viola is like, while I really like her as a character, also like as a character, I like her relationship with Bayonetta, with Luca, her role in the story. And as I said, the potential for the future, because I really hope Platinum focuses, like the next game is focused on her rather than Bayonetta herself, considering how the game ends. So a Bayonetta 4 focused entirely on Viola, I would be completely on board with that. But we'll see what they do. The problem with that is like I was so bad at using her throughout the game because the thing is you don't have witch time. You have to parry, and I had such bad timing. Basically, I was horrible with Viola. But as I say, like again, aesthetically, she's so cool with the huge katana, basically instead of the guns, and the fact that she can summon the huge Cheshire cat. As I say, loved everything about Viola, beside playing with her, because I was terrible. But that's my problem, especially like in defense, because as I say, with these sort of games, I tend to be extremely aggressive and offensive, so I constantly attack and took so much damage. But as I say, that's me not playing the game correctly. But yes, we have some great candidates, but our award has to go to Viola. Potentially a fantastic character for the future. Really enjoyed her already in Bayonetta 3. As I said, I have a soft spot for fan character, guys. So, yeah, that's it. That's the GOTY. the various awards. We have the best game of the year with the fantastic, if I can find it, no I can't. So we have a game of the year with Ori and the Will of the Wisps. We have all these other awards. Thank you so much for watching. Again, Happy New Year, since we're in January already. Hope 2023 will be great for you, both gaming and non-gaming wise. In the future, I will release a video on my gaming plan for the year, since that idea worked pretty well for me in 2022. But I'll do it a bit differently, so we'll see how it goes. But for now, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and like always, take care.